Have you known Tatiana for some length of time?
No. I am the luckiest guy in the world to have been able to work with her. Her husband, Brendan Hines, plays her husband in the film. It's the first time they've worked together on screen. I had a number of mutual friends with Brendan, so I reached out to him. He was game, and he said, "Can my wife do it too?" And I said, "Who's your wife?" I had no idea. They were private about it at the time. And look, I mean, what a gift to have both of them on screen together for the first time. They're so playful with one another, and it's just a boon to have them both in the film. At one point, we said it was John Carpenter, but make it fashion. That it was something that you're going to laugh, you're going to scream, you're going to think about your life choices.
Snatch is also now available on Disney, making it the first queer horror comedy Disney has ever produced. How significant is that?
Is that a real thing?
I think it might be.
I believe so,
Cool.
yeah. How significant is that? I mean,
But fill in the blank. If I weren't working in the arts, I'd be
an advocate, a community leader, a community builder.
What is the best advice you've ever gotten?
Fail again, fail better.
It's the worst advice you've ever gotten.
Just put up a show downtown. It's easy and cheap. So it is my hope that people watch this film and don't think we're being critical of the messaging on that sign. And that, of course, we believe in those sentiments. What we're being critical of is the fact that two people are watching a father break his son's wrist in the middle of the road, and then putting down that sign and smiling and saying, "We've done enough." Right. That's the joke of it, if you think about it for a moment, is that there's no action behind it. And so when you're just saying Black Lives Matter, but you're not supporting Black businesses, or you're not amplifying Black voices, then that phrase doesn't carry much weight. What I wanted to bring to horror, particularly with this film, was to challenge your expectations of what horror can be and what horror moments are. I'm so grateful to 20th for giving me that opportunity. And I think there's a lot of filmmakers these days, both, established, Jordan Peele, Ari Aster, as well as emerging filmmakers who are trying to find new ways to scare you. And I think if we're going to continue to love this art form, we got to find new ways to scare people. I think my job as a filmmaker is to ask questions and to not prescribe answers. So my only hope is that you laugh and have a good time, and then you think a little bit about it afterwards, and maybe engage in conversation with a friend or perhaps a queer person in your family. Obviously, there's many different ways to interpret the allegory or allegories. Back in 1956, the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers was an allegory for McCarthyism. The 78 version with Donald Sutherland, Jeff Goldblum, that was all post-Vietnam, sort of the end of the counterculture movement. It's always been a San Francisco set story. So my hope is that, whenever a body snatcher story happens, and every 10 to 15 years, it always reflects the times we're in. And the metaphor for me perfectly sort of reflected 21st century identity politics, and obviously the pendulum swinging the other way. In all other body snatchers movies, once the aliens make duplicates of you, they make you dead-eyed and sort of emotionless. And sort of another point of subversion is, what if it went the other way? What if alien copies of you were actually overly emotional in our, Twitter climate, where everyone is just sort of yelling at each other and not really listening to one another anymore, which is why Joey keeps telling his father, "Just listen to me." So that's my hope, is that people sort of leave the film listening a bit more. I mean, just listen, just sit in that discomfort. I think as a culture, sort of think discomfort is bad. And I actually am someone who advocates for discomfort in storytelling, because I think discomfort is when we question things. It's when we question authority. It's where we question privilege. And I think that discomfort is how we grow. And so this sort of, obviously, it's a bit of a stereotype, but this idea of a white woman who is relentlessly centering herself in conversations around people of color or queer people, was just sort of apt for satirization. And there's no space for me, especially for a young person, a young character, to still investigate what their identity might be. Maybe they'll be gay, but maybe they won't be. Maybe they'll be bisexual. Maybe they'll be pansexual. Maybe they're exploring their gender.
Mhm.
And if I intrinsically knew that I wanted to create a character who had the bandwidth to continue to explore their identity, Misha allowed that opportunity to, I think, diversify that question,
Okay.
broaden it.
Mhm.
And I thought that was beautiful. And I love telling the story. Misha is a non-binary performer. The first question I asked Misha was, do you feel comfortable playing a cis character?
Mhm.
Because I do think the character should still be cis. And Misha goes, honey, I'm an actor. It was like something to that effect.
Yeah.
And it was so beautiful. I'm sorry to embarrass you.
I didn't know where the story was going. I'm like, what would I have said to that? It was something properly sassy. So okay, that's
Gosh, I hope so. It's hard to, once you form a bond with actors on set and who really get the tone. Obviously, as you saw, the tone shifts are so specific and so fast. And you really, the success of this movie is so much on their shoulders. So they feel like a family unit to me, and gosh, I hope we can make the feature with them.